All right. Welcome, Monica, to the Mind Money Balance podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. And for those of you watching us on YouTube, hi on YouTube. Hi, Monica.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's going to be a great chat because that's really what it is. It's more of us talking about, how we came to be, how our program came to be, and also about the amazing work that you do by helping therapists really build a beautiful website that is really supports their income. So let's start with a little bit of your story. How did you get to be a website designer for therapists? Tell everyone how your path brought you there.
Well, it's a long, winding journey, as most are.
Yeah.
But so in college, I got my BFA in photography and intermedia. And during that time, I saw my first therapist and just kind of discovered what therapy was all about. And then naturally started making art, like my BFA art, about my mental health stuff. And then discovered that art therapy was a thing. And then pretty quickly after that was like, it just kind of like clicked, like I want to go into art therapy. And so basically right after undergrad, I went straight into grad school for art therapy and counseling and was loving it, graduated with my master's in art therapy and counseling, moved back to Michigan. I was in Colorado for my grad program. Moved back to Michigan, started working in the field, worked for a couple of years, and then got super burnt out. Mm-hmm. I was working in an agency and, loved the people that were on my team, but like the work was just so draining. And also was kind of having this like existential crisis of like, is counseling really what I want to do? Like, I love the creative process and I love transformation and I love growth, but like, I don't know that counseling is what I want to do. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just spent all this money on like grad school. What am I doing? And but the fact was I was super burnt out and my health was an issue. So I ended up quitting that job to start a business. Initially, I started an online coaching business because that was kind of the natural, progression. Like I'm a therapist, so let me try coaching. I was doing that for a while and it really didn't work, honestly. Like I did learn a lot. I was learning everything I could about marketing, about business management, everything. But just something wasn't clicking. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that was clicking was my website. I designed my own website and I had my friends who, like my colleagues from grad school, were like, hey, I'm starting my private practice. Can you help me with my website? Can you redesign it or design it from scratch? And I was like, yeah, that sounds so fun. It was like, I didn't even have to think about it because I spent all my extra time like tweaking mine because it was so fun. Mm-hmm. And what I realized then is that like, again, like I love the creative process. So it was like tapping back into what I actually want to do and what I actually love. And so I just kind of went with it. And now like it took off. I decided to do that full time, let go of the coaching business. And what I realized was that working with therapists, I'm like, I'm using all the same skills that I was as a therapist. I'm facilitating growth. I'm translating, things into visual language, which is what I was doing as an art therapist. So it was just kind of this like winding, but also magical kind of unfolding. And so here I am.
Oh my gosh. So like from graduating grad school to where you are now, about how many years did it take you to kind of iterate and land on what you're doing now?
Oh gosh. Probably 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So from the time I graduated till like when I was like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm wanting to do.
Okay. And what I love about your story is it's so familiar to a lot of therapists of I went to get counseling and I found how transformative it was and I wanted to help other people experience that. And then as we get into it, you hit on so many of the things that so many other therapists say. They're like, I loved the work, but ... And the things that get in the way are like long hours and documentation and having clients that maybe aren't a great fit for you and lacking probably the type of income that you needed to support your lifestyle. So I'm curious about how your money story has showed up as you have pivoted into being a business owner, and what types of things you had to overcome to get where you are today, which is, to toot Monica's horn, she is fully booked out for design work, like through the end of the year and starting to book people for 2021. And, she does it in a way where she's not just saying yes to a gazillion and one design clients. She set her fees in a way that support her lifestyle and takes on a handful of clients a year so she can provide them with highly customized, highly tailored work without burning herself into the ground. So tell us a little bit about your money story and how you ended up where you are today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I had to overcome and rewrite a lot of money stories to get to where I am. The biggest one, probably the most foundational one, was like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of the income that I want.
Yeah.
That of the lifestyle that I want, So that was like, that's starting with the most deep one, and then I think above that was, I'm not good with money. That was a belief that I carried with me throughout my young adult life. And I think, just to give like a little bit of context, like I have an older brother who's 5 years older than me. And I always saw him as just like a genius with money. Like he started like investing right after high school and was like flipping houses. And I would just like ask him about stuff and he would just be like, oh yeah, it's X, Y, and Z. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know any of this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of translated as, not like figuring out what rate would be sustainable for me, not only in my business, but like in my jobs before becoming a business owner. Not knowing how to manage my money, getting into debt when I didn't need to, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then another belief I definitely had was like, I can't help people and take their money. Like right? Like when
said every therapist ever.
Exactly. Like when I was like started providing services, I was only focusing on the taking part. Like I was totally ignoring the fact that I was providing a service, that it was an exchange. I only saw it, because of that money belief, I only saw it as like me taking. And it goes back to like money equals greed. Like if you want money, if you have money, anything regarding money is greedy.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to learn, was like, that's not true. And so I did a lot of work around just like my relationship with money. And it was like, if you look at it like a relationship, like I had like an anxious avoidant relationship with money. Like I just didn't want to think about it, didn't want to talk about it. If anybody was willing to pay me, that's great. But if not, I wasn't going to fight them on it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the three big money mindset beliefs that were really holding you back were, I'm not worthy, which is heartbreakingly deep on so many levels. Right. The next one was, I'm not good with money. And then the final one was, I can't charge people that I'm trying to help. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you did a lot of work. Did you do most of it alone? Meaning, was it mostly like self-study? Was it mostly like books and podcasts and doing work on your own?
It was kind of a combination. So, some reading of books, some courses from kind of like money coaches around mindset stuff. And then, so that was all really helpful. But what I was finding was that the tangible kind of skills were just still lacking. I was like, okay, like I was doing the work around like thinking positively about money and like treating money well, you know, like celebrating when it like came to me, all of those like mindset things. But then I was like, I really still feel really anxious about managing my money. And so then the book actually that really started to change things was Profit First. I know that's that's like a different conversation, but like honestly, that gave me a lot of the tangible skills that I think you teach in your coaching. You know, I know you're all about like this balance, and I think that is what was key for me is to do the mindset stuff, but also the skill building stuff. Like that's what really locked it in for me.
Yeah. And that's what I think is missing in so many of these money conversations is that they exist in one of two worlds. They either exist in the data world. And I know Profit First isn't just data, but they either exist in the data world of like tracking your numbers and looking at a budget and organizing your finances, or they exist in this very spiritual world of like, create a vision board with all of your wildest vacations on it and manifest your way to millions, right? They kind of exist in these two worlds. And to your point, neither one of those things is going to help because we need both of them. We need to cultivate a healthy relationship with money. And we also need to understand the practicalities of data, of what's coming in and what's going out. I'm curious, what would it have been like if you had a space where when you were working through the money mindset stuff, you also had space for the practicalities and you also had other people who were like-minded. They'd been trained as a therapist or they'd been trained as a helper or healer, and they were also undoing those money stories. How might that have changed things for you?
Oh my gosh, that would have been honestly a game changer because I thought that I was alone. Like, I thought that I, you know, was the only one that had kind of like a messed up relationship. Like money is such like a taboo thing. And so it felt really difficult to, you know, talk to anybody about what I was working through, you know, like even members of my family, I was, you know, would try to tell them like, yeah, I'm working on my money stuff. And it was always like, okay, that's weird. And so, yeah, like having the community would have been huge. And not only just like any community, but a community of therapists who like came from the same, almost like upbringing, but like professional upbringing. That would have been huge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And that's what, you know, you and I are trying to cultivate. So let's fast forward to now, how you and I have kind of collaborated on creating an 8-week group coaching program specifically for therapists who already have a private practice. They're doing good, but they're kind of like, you know, that imagery of the duck on the water. Like everything looks fine, like they've got a full practice or an almost full practice, but they still feel like they're doing all the things. How did we get there? And also, like, do you remember our first conversation about this?
Well, you reminded me of that conversation. I think it's, well, okay, there were a lot of questions in there. So.
I know, sorry. So the two questions are, how did we get here? So maybe let's start with like how we know each other. Okay, that might be helpful for people.
Right. Well, we met on Instagram.
Yes, we did.
It was really funny because I was like I had been in online business for like a couple of years at that point. And I was like, I need some in real life business friends. And we just happened to connect like right around that time. And I saw that you were in Michigan and so like, we decided to meet up and we were on the same wavelength for sure.
Yeah. We met at a very public space. And it was so interesting because I remember chatting and saying to you like, oh, don't you just want to like meet with people in person? I mean, this is obviously pre-COVID times. And you were like,
Yeah.
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. We had like the same thought go through our minds. This is a little weird, but like, it is what it is. We were each doing our hair when we thought like, wouldn't it be nice if we could meet with each other regularly and talk about business stuff? So that's how we met. One of the biggest questions I get asked when I'm working with clients on money stuff is this normal? Are we doing it right? And so just to have other people to bounce your worries and ideas off of is huge. So let's also think about what was going on when you and I had a conversation, again, pre-COVID times, about therapists and money. I'll paint the picture. It was a wintry February day.
Yeah.
And what was going on?
Yeah, well, I think we were just kind of connecting on that, like I mentioned earlier, like that upbringing of, being trained as a therapist and kind of the stories that we were told and that we were given either like covertly or overtly, just about money and like how that translates in business ownership and how it holds us back. And like I had been seeing a lot of patterns in my work because I work with only therapists. And so I was seeing a lot of the same beliefs and stories come up that I had. And so just talking to you, like you could relate as well. And I was like, man, this must be just like a therapist thing. This must be something about our training that really puts these money stories into our brains that kind of stick and keep us stuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there are stories to that third kind of money mindset block that you had, stories that sound like I can't be a good therapist and charge sustainable rates, or, I must be greedy if I increase my rates, right? So those types of things really get in the way. So what I have seen with private practice therapists is kind of a pattern of when they pivot from agency work or group work or hospital work or whatever it is into private practice, there's kind of this excitement that first happens when they shift. They kind of jump in and they're so excited to start creating their website and start building out different profiles and start filling up their calendars, that excitement kind of clouds the reality that they are business owners. And about 6 months in or a year in, or sometimes even longer, that excitement kind of starts to fade and they go, oh my gosh, I made this pivot because I wanted to be my own boss and set my own hours and see the exact type of clients that I'm called to see. And here I am, a year later, 5 years later, and I'm starting to burn myself out. I'm starting to see 35 clients a week. I'm seeing clients that aren't super aligned. I'm saying yes all the time. I haven't raised my rates in forever. And then they kind of hit this wall and they turn to Google for like how to help. And what I see come up is a lot of help that is for online business owners who might be service-based business owners, but they aren't therapists. So a lot of the advice is like, to scale, you have to build out a product, or you have to sell an ebook, or you have to take on coaching. But a lot of private practice therapists are like, I don't want to do those things. I don't want to write an ebook and create worksheets and, build a podcast. I just want the lifestyle I'd envisioned of seeing clients on my time to come to fruition. So how does having a beautiful website, how does that support a private practice owner's vision of being able to live that lifestyle of seeing the clients they want to see on their time? How does having a beautiful website do that?
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, and I will say that I obviously love beautiful websites. Like I try to make all of my websites very aesthetically pleasing. And it's not just about having a pretty website. It's about having a hardworking website.
Yeah.
Because you can buy any old template off the internet that looks pretty, but if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, it's not worth your money. Mm-hmm. So in regards to how a website helps support your income, it can be your best personal assistant if you set it up correctly. So your website can be something that talks to your clients, on your potential clients, on your behalf, connects with them on your behalf, holds space for them on your behalf, so that you can be sleeping, you can be having dinner with your family, you can be taking your kids to school, and your website's working hard for you while you're doing all of that. And it takes a lot of intention and strategy. It's not just about just setting up a website, just throwing something up, and it's not about just having like a service do it for you. It's about getting really clear about who is it that you want to work with, and who do you want to help? Who are you perfectly suited to to hold space for, and creating a website for them. And so that's the stuff that I'm super passionate about, and that's why I do what I do. Well, an example would be my pivot, right? Like, so I had, when I was in my coaching days, I had a website that was aesthetically pleasing. I designed it. I loved what I was doing, and people were loving the website, but not many people were contacting me for my coaching services. And that was because I was, a couple of things. Like, I was trying to reach everyone. I was like, here's my services. come work with me. And I thought that my expertise would speak for itself. I thought that because I had a master's degree and I was highly qualified, that people would just see that and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to work with her. But it wasn't clear who I was trying to work with. So by trying to speak to everybody, I was speaking to nobody. Like, that saying is true. And so then once I decided that I wanted to work with private practice therapists, redesigned my website, and spoke directly to them, it clicked. And when I say it clicked, like, I started to get a lot of client inquiries from my website, and managed to, fill up my business and have a wait list, and that is like the perfect example of how your website can support your income. Like, just by clarifying those really crucial things, my website started sending me my aligned clients.
Okay. And that's also something that I think is worth exploring, which is when you spoke specifically to the right clients, your inquiries came in. And when we, to your point, when we talk to everyone, we talk to no one. So I'll share my example of like one of my first bios. It looked and sounded a lot like, I'm Lindsay. Here are all of my credentials, the alphabet soup behind my name. I have training in CBT, DBT, motivational interviewing. I have a certificate in integrated behavioral health, right? Like, all of this stuff. And then I also said something like, I help adolescents, teenagers, which I guess are kind of the same thing, adolescents, teenagers, individuals with depression and anxiety, which I thought was a niche, because I'm like, I'm helping people with depression and anxiety. But the reality is, like, what does that mean for a person who has depression, for a person who has anxiety? They might not identify with those labels in the way that therapists do, right? So what they're experiencing is more like, they can't get out of bed. The things that used to excite them bore them to death now. They don't feel excited to go out and see their friends. So we're really speaking to their experience, and those are the types of things that come up. So I have been a friend of Monica's and also a customer of Monica's, which also goes to show that you can exchange money with people for things, and it doesn't have to get weird. Like, when I bought Monica's copy template originally, and then later on I invested in a pre-designed website, I paid full price for that. And I didn't bat an eye. And I also didn't ask Monica to give me a discount, because it modeled that is okay and that is healthy. And my website traffic increased exponentially. I think when I first did the copy site, just the copy overhaul, which is the words on your website, my traffic increased from like 300 or 400 a month, and it doubled to about 800 a month. And then, several months later, when you rolled out the pre-designed websites and I did that, then my traffic increased yet again. And so it was so helpful to have somebody spell it out for me and to give me permission to really niche down and to call in the right people, which brings me to my clients. They find me by way of Google. They don't find me on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And I love Instagram very, very much, but my clients aren't going to Instagram and searching hashtag Michigan therapist. They're going to Google and saying, I need help with my money mindset, or they're saying, how to stop fighting about money, or therapist help in Michigan for money, right? They're typing in very specific things, and that's how they are finding me. They're not finding me on Instagram. And Monica's website really helped me to call those people in. One thing I've heard from private practice therapists when they are excited to get their site redesigned, or they're excited to maybe even build one out, maybe they just have profiles on different therapist directories, is they do one of two things. So they either look for a very pretty template, but a lot of those templates are for like shop owners or bloggers. They're not really for therapists, or they look for something that will kind of, what do they say? It'll come with SEO. Can you talk about first the problem with most templates that aren't for therapists? Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I started creating pre-designed websites for therapists, because I work on Squarespace, and Squarespace's pre-made templates are great, but they're very usually very image heavy and made for like bloggers, photographers, like artists to showcase their work. I think they've tried to like expand their who they try to help, but ultimately what we do as therapists is very unique, and it's really hard for someone who's not a therapist to know what a therapist needs on their website and to know how to connect with potential therapy clients, right? Like that's why we go through all that schooling, right? Like, because the way that we have to connect is very specific and unique. And so yeah, the design of all the other templates out there, is great, and I love a lot of the available templates. But yeah, it just really comes down to how therapists need to connect with their potential clients, and that's what my templates do is help therapists save a lot of time and energy of trying to like adapt one of those standard templates to the therapy work that you do, and just like kind of give you something to hit the ground running.
Yeah. I loved your pre-designed website, and it came with I'm a visual learner. So I love with Monica's websites is that she does videos for you that walks you through step by step how to like change the background colors, how to change the fonts, different tweaks that you can use so that it is aligned with your brand and your brand identity, which made it so easy to do. And then the other thing I hear come up when therapists are trying to build out their website is, they Google things and they find SEO. And so they want to know, does a website come with SEO? What are they asking for, and what's the problem with that? What is SEO?
Oh, yeah. That's a good place to start. SEO is search engine optimization. And so it's basically making sure, there's a lot to it. And I will say first off that I'm a website designer and I do some on-page SEO, but so let's remember the original question here.
What is the problem with therapists trying to get a website that has built-in SEO?
Yeah. So there's not really any such thing as like stock SEO or like template SEO. If someone is telling you that, then be wary because it really, like I said, needs to be tailored to you and your business. And basically, what it does is help your website get seen on Google in search results, right? So SEO helps bring people to your website, and you need not just anyone and everyone coming to your website. You need the right people coming to your website, which is why it needs to be tailored to you and your business. And so I always say, like, you know, like SEO will help people get to your website, but everything like design and copy will help people call you. Mm-hmm. So SEO isn't the whole picture, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Investing in SEO is part of it. Like, I highly recommend that. And it's not the whole picture. So I think sometimes SEO can kind of be viewed as this like kind of magic bullet. Like if I figure out what SEO is, then I'll get all the clients. But you can funnel a whole bunch of traffic to your website. And if your website is not, you know, talking to the right people or designed for the right people, either you're going to get a lot of calls from people that aren't a good fit for you, or you're not going to get many calls. So it's a part of the picture, but it's not the whole picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that explanation, because again, I mean, this question about can't I just buy a website with built-in SEO, that also comes from therapists turning to Google to ask for help with their stuff. And that is some of the stuff that first comes up. So yeah, SEO is a part of the picture, but you can't have it built in, because if I'm an autism specialist for early childhood, you know, I need to have very specific language and keywords in there that is going to show that in a Google search result that you can't just have built in. That doesn't exist. Okay.
Right.
Any other thoughts on the importance of community while you're working through money mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, there's so much shame built into money stories. And I love what you were talking about recently on Instagram about shame, and, you know, like speaking it to minimize the shame, to diminish its power. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the ultimate, one of the biggest benefits of doing this in a group atmosphere, to just have a place where you can talk about this stuff without being judged, because, you know, even still, like I've done a lot of work on my money stories and my relationship with money, but I still don't, you know, feel fully comfortable talking about it in certain groups of people. So I think having a group of like-minded people that are kind of going through it, kind of feeling it out with you is huge.
Oh, Monica, you're such a wealth of information and just kind of affirming and validating so many things that I imagine, you know, I've had, but certainly other therapists have experienced as well. So before we wrap up, what is your favorite thing about being your own boss, about being a solopreneur?
Freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's one word that like came to me, because that's why I started a business, for freedom, for, you know, I didn't want someone to tell me when I could take vacation, or tell me when I had to wake up in the morning, or like, yes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just never really sat well with that. And so I started a business to gain freedom. And now that I've worked on my money stuff, and it's an ongoing journey, right? It never ends, but like, I've done a lot of work, and now I'm actually feeling and seeing what like financial freedom looks like. And that is, I mean, that's priceless.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, it's freedom, and that freedom really ripples into various things. It's the freedom to take time off. It's the freedom to have an income that supports your lifestyle. It's the freedom to take on clients that you're aligned with. There's so much there. So before we officially wrap, where can everyone find you, Monica?
Yeah. Well, my website is holdspacecreative.com. And, you can find me there. I have a personality quiz for a therapist that you can take. That's super fun. I know, Lindsay, you've taken it. So you can see how to design your website based on your personality. So you can go to holdspacecreative.com/quiz to take that. And then you can also find me on social media. I'm usually on Instagram at holdspacecreative. You can also find me on Pinterest at holdspacecreative as well.
Love it. And if you take that quiz, please screenshot your result and tag both Monica and I on Instagram stories at Hold Space Creative and at Mind Money Balance. We would love to see what types of therapists listen today and what type of type you are. It's such a fun quiz and beautifully designed. No surprise.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Monica. I'm so excited for the 8-week group that we are doing to kind of bring our unique strengths together and to really help therapists build something and grow something that we know is possible for them. So thank you again for coming on today. And if you are interested in joining Monica and I in our 8-week program, Grow a Profitable Practice from the Inside Out, you have until Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 to apply for this cohort. We start on September 14th. Go to mindmoneybalance.com/profitable practice to read everything you need to know and to apply.